Well, hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to be engaging with a Christian TikToker who's asked questions about Christians voting. So let's take a look.
What's your opinion with politics and voting? So here's my opinion. Take it to the Lord. I personally cannot vote in good faith. It would literally be sin for me to vote because of how I feel with my conscience. You go to Romans 14, the idea of whatever is not done in faith is sin. A lot of godly, good teachers preach to vote.
So when I was first watching this, I kept waiting for like the second half of the sentence because what I thought he was going to say is, I cannot vote for this person or for this policy or for this bill or something like that. But he's not. He's talking just about engaging with voting in the system, not even seemingly just voting for presidential elections, but just voting in any way for anything. He does go to Romans 14, which is going to be important, where the thing that I'm thankful about what he's doing here is he seems to be pretty clear from the beginning. He is not saying that everybody needs to follow his lead for this, but he's making the case that Romans 14 does lay out that if your conscience is not allowing you to do something, even something that biblically you could make the case it's okay for you to do, then you shouldn't do that thing. For some people, that's drinking alcohol. For some people, probably not today, but in the past, that was like playing cards or things like that, or maybe seeing R-rated movies. All right, technically it's not disallowed, but if your conscience doesn't allow you to do it, don't do it. So he's talking about that, but saying that his conscience will not allow him to vote at all or engage in the political voting at all.
My pastor is big on voting. People I watch, Andy Woods, big on voting, right? That is their opinion. Everyone needs to vote. Everyone needs to vote. And that's fine. That's their conscience. That's their opinion. They're doing it from their faith.
I will say on this, where I end up landing on this is I think that it is very good for Christians to vote. I feel like the norm should be that we vote. It's a privilege that we've been given that a lot of people haven't been able to engage with, and I believe that there also comes with that a sense of responsibility. I don't believe that you can go sort of on the opposite side of this guy and say it is wrong not to vote. I don't believe that's the case. I don't believe that it's a Christian obligation. I do believe that it should be a Christian norm.
I personally cannot vote and for it to not be sin. I can't do it with a clear conscience because I know it's a game. I know it's rigged. I know it's a joke. It's like writing a Christmas list to Santa Claus. It's a joke. I personally believe it's part of the magic with the occult of contributing to the system. When you cast a vote, you're casting, right? The idea of casting a spell. You're casting something. You are allowing your energy into the system, whatever that looks like. Again, people got all fired up when I called Trump a Gemini, thinking that I follow astrology or something. It's like, guys, you need to understand the enemy and what they believe. I don't believe in astrology. I don't follow the occult or astrology, but they do. They believe in it. So you should know what the enemy believes in.
So there's a lot there. So his reasoning for why his conscience doesn't allow him to vote is that he believes that, seemingly, if I'm understanding him right, the whole political system is rigged, that it's a joke. And I think to some, this will sound sort of like an extreme conspiracy theory, but I also think that there's a broader case that more popularly, a lot more people could get on board with to kind of say, like, politicians, will change their mind and they're all just sort of in it to keep their jobs and they're telling people what they want to hear. And so, and sort of like once you get in, incumbents can't get out. So I think when people talk about the system being rigged, there's sort of levels of what they mean by it. And some people, when they're talking about the system being rigged, are basically just saying like the different ways that the system is set up lends itself to corruption in such an extreme way, and it lends to people just pleasing their party instead of pleasing their constituents. And so and then they could bring in the media and say the media contributes to this too. So there's a way of people talking about the system being rigged that's not deeply conspiratorial, but maybe is just looking at it and saying the system isn't working. He seems to be saying more than that, and I don't know exactly where he's at with it. And it's strange that the whole sort of connection with the occult, the casting thing, I'll just say is very strange. And I don't know if maybe in other things that he says that's consistent with what he thinks in general. Casting can have multiple uses. The word can have multiple uses. Casting a vote is not the same as casting a spell, is not the same as casting a net, it's not the same as casting when you're fishing. Like it's not the same thing. But it seems like the parallel that he's giving is that this system is rigged and is corrupt and everybody's in on it together. And so even contributing to it, even like participating in it, is basically contributing to the lie and maybe even leading other people astray. So that seems to be the basis of him saying, because of that, I can't lie, I can't participate in something that I know is rigged and is not real. I'm going to show that I think that it's not real instead of participating in it.
If you want to be able to combat this war that we're going in, so many Christians are ignorant and blind to the warfare going on. And you don't want to focus on it. You want to focus on Christ, but you also do not want to be ignorant and blind to it.
Just as a quick note, I have no context for this, so I don't know what he was talking about with the whole thing about President Trump being a Gemini. I don't know what the context of any of that was. That's strange. I don't know. It seems like he's saying that in a previous video he brought that up because that matters to other people. I don't know. That just, it strikes me as very strange, and that's where it's crossing more over into like not the popular it's rigged idea, but the much more conspiratorial thing about it being rigged, which I don't think is correct.
With that being said, my answer is to follow your conviction. Whatever is not done in faith is sin. So if you not voting causes you to stumble by having a lack of faith of, oh shit, I need to vote, then go vote. Go vote. That's totally fine. That's between you and the Lord. Take it to the Lord. But for me personally, when people try to tell me I need to vote, it's my duty, I need to, it would cause me to sin personally. It's a conviction of mine that I feel like I'm contributing to the system that I don't want to be a part of. I'm out of it. I'm done, guys. I'm done. I'm not of this world. Yes, I live in it. I'm an ambassador for Christ. I have dual citizenship. I'm a citizen of this world while being a citizen of heaven. I'm here to shine light, but I'm not going to contribute to the joke, to the clown show. It's a circus. We all know how fake it is. Come on. It's so fake. And especially me being in California, we already know blue all day, every day in California. My vote means absolutely nothing here. It's part of the spiritual war, in my opinion, to contribute with their own energy and thinking you're doing something. I believe it's a part of their mind control in the spiritual realm. But again, that is my take. You can do whatever you want, and there's no judging. That's fine. That's between you and the Lord. So that is my answer.
So a lot of odd stuff there. I don't know a lot about this guy. This is not somebody that I would recommend to anybody. You should go and take in his content because there's a lot of just strange things. As a quick note on the California thing, for those of us in California, that is a common way that sometimes we can think. We're sort of like, if as we're going into the election in the fall between President Biden and former President Trump, we're just sort of like, it's June and they've already called it for Biden. We just sort of like, we just resign ourselves like that's what's going to happen. And oftentimes that is the case. At least right now, we can pretty well pencil that in. It's not as true in different measures or in different sort of local races and things like that. So he's not right across the board. If he was talking simply of presidential elections, right now where we're living, he would be correct. But also part of the way that gets changed is that you have more people voting the other in this case. If you're a Republican voter, you'd have more people voting that way, and then people who've sort of said it doesn't matter that I vote start to see that it does matter that they vote, and then it evens out. So anyway, that's a quick note on that. I do think that there's a lot of strange things that he says. It's not somebody that I would recommend anybody paying close attention to and getting content from. With all that said, What he does well, and this is surprising because a lot of people don't do this, especially when they're talking about volatile topics like this, he treats this as a disputable matter, as a Romans 14 matter. He says, this is where I am, but it doesn't have to be where you are. And that's correct. And there are a lot of issues over which that's correct, where we can look at it. And even in the voting realm, there's some Christians that say, I can't. For example, a lot of Christians that say, I can't vote for any Democrat because of their pro-choice stance, and maybe also because of their stances and things related to marriage and sexuality and things like that. There are other Christians that may appropriately object to those, but still feel like in their conscience they can vote for at least certain Democrats in certain positions because they think that on the whole, the other policies that they're bringing are all right. And so I think that's another case where it's okay to say, like, all right, we should follow our consciences on this. But there can be differences. Where my conscience is leading me doesn't always have to be where your conscience is leading you. Just in the sense of, for some people, their conscience won't let them drink alcohol. For others, they will. It's okay for Christians to disagree on these. Here's where I think there is something missing to this discussion, though. Sometimes there's something that right now our conscience is not allowing us to do, but it's a significant enough limitation that it's worth trying to deal with before the Lord. So, for example, I'll take the drinking thing, for example. If you're in the United States, probably you're not going to be in many situations where it is going to cause a problem with other people if you don't drink. And for the people that it does cause a problem that you don't drink, that's usually because of unhealthy things in their situation. There could be certain countries, though, if you're a missionary and you just abjectly refuse to ever drink alcohol, you could be like bringing some confusion when it comes to communion because there's wine involved with that. It could be just a part of hospitality. So in a case like this, if I was talking to somebody, I would say, okay, as long as your conscience is not allowing you to do this, do not do it. But it's worth seeing if you can work this through before the Lord to the point that your conscience would be more informed and would allow you to do this. I mean, maybe an even better example is that there's some, not a ton, but there's some Christians that say that because musical instruments, in terms of worship, musical instruments are not specifically named in the New Testament, that when we worship in song together as a church, we shouldn't use any musical instruments. And so their consciences won't allow them to use, anything, piano, organ, drums, guitar, anything like that. For me, I would say, okay, if you're at the point that your conscience doesn't allow you to do it, don't violate your conscience, but it would be good to inform your conscience because you're going to be cutting yourself off from so many other believers because of this thing that you believe that you can't do that you really can do. So in a case like his, I would say, okay, you're right, don't violate your conscience, but I think that your conscience is misinformed here. And so because of this, there are issues where it's worth us leaning in and saying, is there a way for me to inform myself and my conscience more so that I'm not bringing limitations, unnecessary limitations or harm or confusion to myself and to the Christian community by what I hold on to?